Self-improvement can quietly turn into the exact thing it was supposed to save you from. If you've spent real time in the self-improvement world, the books, the routines, the morning stacks, the frameworks, the mentors, then you might have started to notice something the industry never quite admits. More of it does not always produce more of you. At some point, the protocols start to feel like performance. The personal development starts to feel like striving in different clothes. You're tracking everything, you're optimizing everything, you're doing all the work, and somehow you feel less like yourself, not more. There's actually a name for that. It's the growth trap. The growth trap is what happens when self improvement quietly takes on the same architecture as the achievement culture it was supposed to be an alternative to. It's the same metrics, the same comparison, the same shame, the same invisible line that keeps moving the moment you get close. So let me give you the distinction that shapes everything else we're about to talk about. There's a difference between growth and restlessness. Growth is a movement in a direction toward more honesty, more capacity, more alignment between who you are and how you actually live. Restlessness is movement without direction, the constant chase of the next framework, the next teacher, the next version of yourself, driven by the anxiety that standing still means falling behind. They can look identical from the outside, but they feel different. Growth tends to feel like expansion towards something. Restlessness tends to escape from something. The most useful test is a single honest question. Am I doing this out of curiosity and genuine care for who I'm becoming, or am I doing this because stopping feels unbearable? Here's why this trap catches so many smart, sincere people. The self-improvement industry borrowed its operating system from the achievement culture it criticized. It kept the metrics, it kept the comparison, it kept the shame, it just changed the scoreboard. Instead of promotions, you're tracking meditations. Instead of revenue, you're tracking habits. Instead of titles, you're collecting frameworks. The game looks different. The underlying feeling is the same. You're never quite enough, and the next practice is going to fix it. That is not growth. That is striving in a better outfit. See if any of these land. You keep switching frameworks, routines, or mentors because each new one arrives with the promise you've been waiting for, until it doesn't. You feel a low hum of anxiety whenever you're not optimizing something. You track every habit with impressive consistency, and the person behind the tracker feels a little bit less like you every single month. You sense you're behind on some life development timeline that nobody ever actually drew. You're in motion constantly, and the direction is somehow unclear. These are not moral failures. They're signals. They're what happens when growth has become performance, when the activity of development has detached from its actual purpose. So what is genuine growth then? Real growth is not a smoother version of you. It's a more honest one. It's becoming more capable, not of doing more things, but of staying honest in difficult moments, more able to feel what you're actually feeling, more alignment between your values and your choices, more anchored in what you actually believe rather than what you think you should believe. It tends to be quieter than the industry suggests. It doesn't always produce content. A lot of it happens during stretches that look from the outside like nothing's happening at all. There's one more thing genuine growth requires that the self-improvement industry tends to quietly skip. Real difficulty. Not aestheticized hardship, not the struggle that becomes a post. Actual difficulty, the kind that does not resolve on your preferred timeline. The failure that doesn't immediately reveal its lesson. It's the long, unglamorous middle of a process you can't fast forward. Research on post-traumatic growth, the documented development that follows genuine adversity, consistently finds that difficulty, when engaged with honestly rather than avoided or performed through, produces exactly the kind of development smooth upward arcs don't. More capacity, clearer values, a more robust sense of self. You can't hack your way around this part. The difficulty is often where the growth actually lives. So, one more reframe worth naming. The self improvement industry implies a developmental timeline. By 30, this much clarity. By 40, this much achievement. By 50, this much wisdom. Anything else gets framed as being behind. The actual evidence tells a completely different story. Adult development is significantly non-linear. Some of the most important growth people ever do happens in their 40s, their 50s, and their 60s, often prompted by the exact difficulties that early success insulates us against. Late blooming is not a developmental failure. It's simply a different arc. So your timeline is not behind, it's yours. So here's the reframe I'd like to leave you with. Growth is not forward. It's not faster or higher or more. Growth is in a direction, and the direction that matters is toward your own deepest values, toward greater honesty about your actual experience, toward more genuine engagement with the life that's actually yours. A person who's grown in this sense is not necessarily more impressive than they were. They're more themselves. They handle difficulty with more capacity and less defensiveness. They love the people in their life with more honesty and less performance. They work at what matters to them with less need for applause. That is what the long game of self-becoming actually looks like. It doesn't require a dramatic narrative. It doesn't require visible achievement. It doesn't even require that your growth be legible to anyone else. It requires only that you take the question seriously. Who am I actually becoming? And that, as you keep choosing, as honestly as you can, to move in the direction of your own life. The growth trap wants you to believe that stillness is falling behind. Real growth knows better.